Welcome to the Pioneer Mind podcast. So glad you could join us today. Looking forward to a quick visit with Kathy Workman about salt. She's going to assault you without any pain or tragedy at the end, but you will be informed. You will be informed and definitely know more about salt maybe than you ever knew in your whole life. So um, with that, I'll leave it to Kathy to kind of start in on maybe the misconceptions we've had, and really the truth of it, and why it's so important. That's probably the three things we need to focus on. So there you go, Kath.
All right. Well, I always love assaulting people. And I learned about salt when I started doing the ketogenic diet and not realizing that what they call the keto flu is really all just low sodium. And so the first time I went through that the low carb, the ketogenic diet, all of a sudden we called it sloth mode with our clients. We just felt real lethargic and slothful, and the protocol itself had called to add extra salt, but it was, a quarter of a teaspoon. It didn't seem like it mattered much. But when I started hearing more about, okay, what's the deal with the salt, I ended up getting a book called The Salt Fix. And that just opened my eyes to so many different things. And so when you get it's not the salt that causes water retention, it's the sugar. Sugar is causing inflammation. And when your body is inflamed, it holds the fluid. So when you go on the ketogenic diet, you get the sugar out. Well, all of a sudden you start flushing the sodium, the potassium, and the magnesium. Therefore, you can feel just real lethargic. You can get headaches. You get muscle cramps, and salt is the cure.
Okay, so if the flushing's not a bad thing. That means there's excess in there somehow.
Granted, your kidneys and everything start working, so we're flushing. But one of the things about the salt, and in this book, The Salt Fix, that I highly recommend for everybody, is recognizing that in the 70s, they had legislation that came in that legislated that we needed to take the salt out of our foods that we were preparing. And salt has been used for a millennia to preserve food. So when you take the salt out, guess what you have to add? Preservatives. So when they
Sure.
added the preservatives back in there, and then they legislated our sodium levels to be 2,300 milligrams a day, which is survival rate, not thriving rate. Other countries with the higher salt rates have lower heart issues. And so in the 70s, when we got to do this because 5% of the population had high blood pressure at the time. Well, now, all these years later, 85% of the population has high blood pressure, and they keep blaming it on the salt, telling people, go on a low sodium diet, go on a low sodium diet. And we know full well it is not salt that's causing the high blood pressure. It's actually the sugar and the insulin resistance, because having too much insulin in your blood, insulin is a growth hormone. So it's actually making your blood vessels thicker, it's swelling them. So then you're not getting your blood is restricted, and therefore you have high blood pressure. So,
So we're blaming the wrong thing all the time.
yeah,
They're
yeah,
they're blaming salt when it's actually sugar and insulin resistance.
yeah. Salt has taken the hit for sugar for sure. And if you want to take it back, like when your sodium levels are low, your sugar receptors are very high also. So when you kind of look, this is in the 70s, that happened in the 90s. The cigarette companies started seeing the writing on the wall. So they started buying the food companies. The food companies then are also run by the big pharma. But the food companies, then the cigarette companies moved their addiction specialists over to the food companies. So in the 90s, they decided, hey, let's demonize fat. But when you take fat out of food, food doesn't taste very good. So you have to add sugar back in. So now we've got more sugar in our diets. And again, playing this little merry-go-round. And now all of us are living with the symptoms or the diseases that they say are caused by insulin resistance. And they're still kind of blaming it on the salt.
Yeah, and again, there's so many things like that. You and I have talked about this just even the last few days quite a bit. It's just the sacred cows of our life have been really turned upside down by doing our own research, digging in and finding out that a lot of things that we're told, right, as we're growing up. I always talk about living in Pleasantville. I wouldn't have distrusted anything that was told to me by a teacher. Anyone in authority said something, I was going to say, well, I guess that's gospel. What you find out is they were probably just as deceived. They weren't trying to deceive me, but the whole culture's been captured by information that really sometimes is made up. Right? It's not even
Yeah.
based on anything other than somebody saying something on Good Morning America. You know what I
Well,
mean?
yeah, and I think again, it always goes back to follow the money trail, So when you have legislation is coming through to lower it, there's somebody behind the scenes that's going to benefit. And I guess, it's hard to see it at the time and hard to believe that these entities are actually intentionally setting us up. But it's pretty hard to not be able to connect the dots when you kind of look back of the different things that are happening. Like the 70s was low salt, the 90s or the 80s then was let's jack up the statins came out. That was a great big
Yeah,
piece of it, the statins.
yeah,
Now in the 90s it's all the extra demonizing more fats, which means we need more statins to get rid of the cholesterol problem that's not the cholesterol problem. All the while heart issues, cancers, diabetes, Alzheimer's, all of these things are just the numbers are just going through the roof, and we're still just throwing big pharma at it and never looking at what's the root and what's a possible cure. And so that's
yeah.
the exciting part of right now is more people are asking more questions. And when you ask questions, you can get to the root and go, wow, one root and all of these other different little things are huge.
No, it is, and again, I just encourage people to do their own research, read books. Everyone needs to start reading again. It's amazing what you can find out reading, right? And what we've discovered, I guess, as we've gone along, it started many, many years ago with maybe family members that had passed or whatever. We started asking questions, but the more we asked questions and started getting answers, we started realizing, for good or bad, just that we really need to dig in and do our own research. And you find out about salt, it's absolutely counterintuitive, is it not? It's 100%. Almost everybody will fight you on their salt intake. 100%, they'll fight you. And but when you start showing them and you get the information out, and then they adjust, and then, oh, I feel a whole lot better. How many times have we heard that?
Yeah, I mean, you can get rid of a headache with just putting some salt grains under your tongue and drink a little bit of water. And, and the other thing with the salt, a lot of the elderly people, particularly, have been following this low salt thing, and then they end up in the hospital and they'll go, "Oh yeah, my sodium's low." Well, just by changing the words sodium and salt and saline. So, anytime you go to the hospital, the first thing they're going to do is going to put you on a saline bag, which is
Yep.
salt. But even nurses and physicians have been snookered by those words because they're just told put them on a saline bag and we'll fluff them back up, and then they'll tell you to go home and eat a low salt diet. It's like, well, you just pumped me full of all of this
Right.
salt. And so the irony of it is I mean, it's funny if it wasn't so serious because your body has to have salt. If you could never have another carb and live a long time, but if you cut out the salt, you would die in a short period of time.
Right.
I think one of the good examples of that was when Lewis and Clark traveled. They stopped at the ocean for several months to collect salt because they knew they had to have the salt um, to to travel. When you don't have the salt, your body will take it from your bones. We have a high osteoporosis going up. It'll take it from your brain fog. It'll take it from your muscles, cramping, so your whole body gets off when we're low on the salt. It's another one of those too when you're low on sodium and let's say you get the flu and you're throwing up and diarrhea. I mean, that's why people die of the flu, literally. Their salt intake drops so quickly that they die from the flu.
Right. And again, I would say from my perspective too, another thing that I feel like is occurring is that, there is an awakening occurring across the country in terms of food and food is medicine and what we eat, and salt's one of them. There's more people that I talk to about this subject that, oh yeah, I know that, I read that. They're catching on to some of these things and adjusting on their own end. It's kind of like, you and I've mentioned before, like just recently with the car we were going to buy. Next thing you know, I drove home and I said I saw like 10 of those today. It's like
Yeah.
that awareness piece that all of a sudden your mind is focused on this thing, and what happens is you find out that a lot of people are onto this and realizing that, um, you know, kind of being your own best advocate for your health is really important.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I think that's where we can look and say COVID did us all a great big favor, because COVID opened our eyes to, okay, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. Why are we pushing everybody to do something and they don't even really know what it is? And now we see there's lots of ramifications for that. Obviously, RFK is asking a lot of questions about things. And so we're just in this place now of going, oh, wait a minute, we've believed all this before. And this is where we're at. So it's time to start asking some questions, and people are open and want something other than big pharma. And there's some really awesome, simple solutions that nobody's going to make a bunch of money off of, because, big pharma has got the monopoly on the money side of it. And healing people. And it's pretty cool.
I'm in a business with the oil field that I'm pushing products that are consumables, meaning they need them every week, every month, every day, whatever. How often I need to ship it to them by the truckload. So the idea of me selling them one time is not a very exciting proposition for me in business. I need to have them buy over and over again. So I always say I'm the salesman the first time, and after that, I'm a service provider, right? And it's the same thing with big pharma. They can't have you on a one time fix all thing. They got to have you on a consumable that really your prescription is almost not ending, and they want you on that for life. And so when you say, "Hey, salt's this simple fix for cramps or whatever's going on in your body," uh, they can't stand that. They have a profit margin, bottom line, shareholders matter more than us, right? And so, when you talk about how the simplicity of insulin resistance and the weight loss related to the food we eat and what types we eat, proteins, the balance of fats, watching the carbs, you start talking the simplicity of making some simple changes, it drives them crazy, you know? Um, when you start
Well,
doing your own thing, it
drives
really
them
bugs
crazy
them.
because we're questioning them, and I don't think we've ever questioned before, and then we're questioning them, and we're telling them or teaching them things they don't know about. Therefore, that means we must be dumb, and so no, but I really see, even with the company that I'm a part of, we're getting a lot of physicians that are recognizing that these things that they keep saying are genetic and you'll live with it your whole life. We're finding out they're reversible. Type 2 diabetes is reversible. But we're also
Right.
finding out that, by the time you get diagnosed, your body's been burning slowly for 10 to 15 years before they ever get the diagnosis of it. And so yeah, it just feels hard to turn back the tide, but people are doing it. Physicians are finding other alternative um, products and things that are actually helping people. And in that, a lot of times they're being escorted out. They can't, if they're
Yeah.
not hitting their quotas, they're not, bringing in enough of the money and putting on people on enough pharmaceuticals. They're leaving, and these are the voices that we're hearing, which I think is wonderful. So,
It,
as
it,
hard as it
it, it
is, we're
is.
we're in a hard season for professionals that see the truth, um, because they're kind of in a rock and a hard spot, but
They, they, they,
there's a lot of great
they, re-
voices.
they really are, because not only are we telling them you're wrong, when they step away, they're being told they're wrong by the people they just left behind. So they have this middle of the road, like you said, that is really challenging for them. But I think once you awaken to these things, it's hard to go back. I think for them it's really a challenging spot, and but anyway, it's a good subject. Get your salt. Don't be afraid of it. Get the book, The Salt Fix, as Kathy suggested, and again, we'll keep doing these. And I appreciate you stopping by and visiting. If you get a chance, like and share the video. Uh, in this podcast, the Pioneer Mind, we're about trying to pioneer new things, pioneer our life, pioneer our health. And I'm really focusing on my industry with the oil field. I did an episode today that the sound was all messed up. I'm going to redo it Friday, but just a fascinating teaching opportunity. If you want to learn about uh, how we develop energy in the United States, I encourage you to really join us, and that's coming up soon. Again, I got a lot of episodes to come. Kathy and I want to keep doing this because we're passionate about it. We care about it. She cares about it. She drives us all nuts, but at the same, yeah, but it's really been helpful to me, because I've learned a lot too, and have, started my own journey of studying out to be, my own best health advocate. So it's a really important thing.
So consider
So,
yourself assaulted. I just want to do a shout out. There's some really great products to help you get it in. Element, LMNT, is actually a Montana based company,
yep,
and they
yep.
have a great product that has 1,000 milligrams of sodium a day. Redmond salt, that's mined here in the United States, down in Utah. That's a great salt to add, and just a quarter a teaspoon a day. Add that to, your water, add it to your food. We've kind of been so afraid of it. But again, you want to make sure you're dropping the sugar so you're not just, swelling up with the inflammation. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, and
yeah,
if you think about a lot of the salt depleting habits that we have, so drinking a cup of coffee will delete 500 milligrams of sodium. So if you're drinking several coffees a day, you're dropping that. The medications can also drop the sodium in a day, and a half hour, 45-minute workout can drop about 2,000 milligrams of sodium. So just by our everyday thing, we're losing the sodium and the salt. And again, that's why we're seeing a lot of the different health issues of, the skin, the bones, the osteoporosis, all of those sorts of things, I think are also coming from the low sodium.
sure. So we're gonna let's do another show on Saturday or another episode, I guess, about our health. We'll come up with a subject matter then, but do you have an idea now that you want to cover on Saturday, or we'll just call it good?
Well, let's talk about protein because we really need to be prioritizing protein. And the great thing is once you prioritize protein and you get the amounts that your body actually needs to protect your muscle mass, not a whole lot of room for a lot of extra fluff is all I got to say.
Yeah.
So let's talk
Uh, I,
protein.
okay, we'll look forward to that. That's coming up, and thanks for joining us. Always great, and I just love this whole process of learning and discussing, and I just thankful for you guys, and just again like and share, and it just helps me to have a little more influence with this idea of being a pioneer and going for it, getting unstuck as Americans, and I just appreciate all you do. Thanks.